thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you for all the feedback you've given me. I need more and more and more. I need to know what it is you like about this, where you are making progress, where you aren't, what you don't like about it, what's missing, all this stuff. I need to know. If you don't tell me, I don't know. The feedback you've been giving me has been very helpful. Many of you have asked me, as you look at the recordings of these various webinars, to put back in that period of time where everybody is quiet and bringing in unseen therapists. Previously, I have edited that out down to a short period, so you could just basically pause it and do this for as long as you wish, be it 30 seconds or 30 minutes, you know. But you've asked me to put that actual time back in. I am doing that currently. Within the next 2 weeks, all of the past webinars should have the full time period in there when you go back to see the webinar. You can always stop it if you want to, fast forward if you wish, and so on. Also, it occurred to me, you know, that there's really a gratitude issue that gets involved here. We have an ability here to talk with each other worldwide and share things that we couldn't share otherwise, and we have the technological ability to do it now. And I think sometimes we just have to sit back and, instead of taking things for granted, be a little full of gratitude, you know, for that, because otherwise, how would we really do this, and how would we communicate this and get the kind of progress that we're getting with this? Now, my next little point here is I want to tell you a story, but the story has to do with a use of optimal EFT. It has to do with what to do about an injury. Now, I want to go back in time. 10 years ago, I slipped and fell in my own home and had a major injury to my left rib cage and the muscles in my back. And it was so severe that I could not even drive a car for 2 weeks without great pain, because just turning my head to look around or moving my arm or any of that just sent sharp pains all the way through my body. And it took about 6 weeks for that to finally heal, okay? And I did some tapping along the way, and that helped, but it always helped only temporarily. 10 minutes, an hour maybe, something like that, but here it came again. Now, last Monday, I was out running. I run 45 minutes to an hour most every day. I live way out in the country. I was on a trail doing the running early in the morning, nobody around. And I didn't notice, but there was a rock on the trail. My toe hit the rock. I went flat on my face. I should say flat on my rib cage. And as I was falling, I could feel every single one of those previous muscles and connective tissue that I had damaged before, just like that. And it was major pain. It was worse than the first time, by far. It was so bad that once I hit the ground, I couldn't move without excruciating pain. I did manage to roll on my back at great pain, but I couldn't get up. I couldn't do anything but be there in pain. And it was so painful, I would start moaning, yeah, like that, but nobody could hear me. And it was where that was in the country, etc. Nobody would be coming along to help me for at least an hour, maybe 2 or 3, okay? And so I was basically helpless there with this very serious injury. And so as I'm lying there, I think, well, why not bring in unseen therapists? So I did. I got very quiet, brought in unseen therapists, brought loving, hopefully loving relief to the injured part of my body. I did it metaphorically in a sort of waves. Waves would come, gentleness, waves. It's like my body was not being gentle, it was being violated. So I brought in gentleness up and down, gentleness up and down, gentleness up and down. Now, the pain did not go away, but it got noticeably better so that I could stand up, and I was nearly a mile from my home, and I walked home, something that would have been, in my view, impossible had I not brought in unseen therapist. So anyway, so I walked home in pain, but at least I walked home. We are now 5 days later, not 6 weeks later as it was the first time. And while I still have pain, I can do this and I can move and I can feel it, but it's about 80–85% gone. I will be out running tomorrow or the next day and be able to resume normal activities in 1 week rather than what previously was 6 weeks. Okay. 2 things happened in there. One is I brought in unseen therapists to begin with, and my very dear friend in Brazil, Sonia Novinsky, I was talking to her and I told her about it, and she began for me to bring in unseen therapists several times a day during all this period of time. That also assisted in this very rapid healing. I'm going to bring Sonia on now to talk about that for a second. So, Sonia, I'm unmuting you. Can you hear me?
Yes, okay.
All right. So say a couple more things and your video should show up.
My video is not up.
Now it's up, yeah. Okay. Yes. All right. So everybody, this is Sonia.
Hi.
And so why don't you tell them what you did, how often you did it. So, and by the way, reason I'm mentioning all this is it's a tool to use with unseen therapists, optimal EFT, for injury purposes, which is what this is. Okay, so go ahead, Sonia, say what you did, and we'll go from there.
First, early in the morning, before getting out of the bed, I asked for unseen therapists to came to my left rib. That was the side, your side, left rib. So I feel Gary's left ribs united with me, like if we have one ribs, and I feel his ribs with my ribs, and I call unseen therapists to bring love to heal this injury. And then I also put the two of us in a same field or in a kind of circle. We are in this circle and we are calling together unseen therapists to heal this left rib and bring love to these ribs. And then in the middle of the day, I had some clients I see also doing optimal EFT. I asked for Gary. He was not there, but I asked for Gary to come with us, with me and my client. When I work with my client, I ask for unseen therapists to come and to work all together with the problem of my client, the Gary injury, and myself as a channel, helping them and helping myself also, of course.
One thing I want to interject, Sonia, and ask you about, when you said earlier that you were becoming me and my ribs, etc., you weren't actually feeling my pain, were you?
No, I was not feeling exactly your pain, but I have the reference of what a pain, acute pain of injury, because I already fell in the floor. So I have this reference. So I just imagine this reference or call this reference to come to my heart. And so I can be together with your ribs.
But it's more like you are representing, or you say referencing the pain. You aren't actually feeling my pain.
No.
Okay. I mentioned that because I've had quite a bit of conversation with people that are empathically pick things up, and we're going to talk about that in just a little bit, but I wanted to put this point out here. But now, so you were doing this. How often did you do this during the day?
I think each 3 hours I did. And in my breaks, I did a little also. In my breaks I have a small break, so I can't stay like 3 or 4 minutes, but I have sometimes 1 minute or 2 minutes, and one client going out and the other coming in. I breathe and I feel my ribs and your ribs, and I put together and ask for unseen therapies to bring love.
Okay, great. Anything else you want to add to all that?
And before going to sleep, I also did every day, but more. I stay like 5 minutes in contemplation on state, feeling this circle and this field, and feeling love, irradiating love to your ribs, and asking unseen therapies to do the major job.
Okay, now, just so everybody's clear on this, when you were doing that, I didn't know when you were doing it or precisely what you were doing. And I can't say that, oh, I could feel, oh, Sonia is now doing this for my ribs. I didn't have that kind of link or feeling. Some people do. I didn't in this case. However, I am astonished at how quickly this has gone along the healing path, particularly because it was worse than it was 10 years ago. I mean, the damage was worse, number one, and I'm 10 years older, so we tend to heal slower yet. And yet, I'm going to be back in 1 week to a place where I was previously in 6 weeks. Okay. Anything else you need to say or mention there, Sonia?
No, I just want to say that I always call for us to be grateful for unseen therapies to be with us in the final of my contemplation state.
Yeah. Okay, great. All right. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Sonia. I want to go on now. Let me just a second. Let me you and lower your hand. Okay. Now, I want to spend a little time on this, the whole idea of the empathic problem we talked about. That is, as it turns out, I've made quite an error here, which we're going to correct here in a little bit, but I need to have a proper background so that we really understand, all the pieces of this. For those who are new, the empathic problem is I've been having people imagine being, somebody else, and then feeling what they're feeling, bringing love in, and so on. But what I was saying and what people were interpreting were two different things, but I'm going to take responsibility for it. So I've had several feedbacks on that in some phone conversations, etc. But I want to draw a distinction first, if I can, and that's between the empathic response and those who get triggered by something. There is a difference, and I want to make a distinction here. Years ago, I would give live workshops. I would go to some city in the world, and 400 or 500 people would come in the audience. I'd bring people up on stage, and we would do EFT, the tapping form of EFT, and so on. And I learned over time that people in the audience would get triggered, not necessarily empathic, but triggered, because when I'm on stage, something is mentioned, a particular specific event comes up that may be traumatic, graphic, and so on. And so somebody in the audience would be triggered. It would trigger an event of their own, and they would get into it, get very uncomfortable, and so on. So I actually had, for that purpose, 7 or 8 EFT people around the room, and anybody who felt that way could leave the room, and they would be followed out by somebody who would start tapping, 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 and bring them down. But these people, at least in my understanding, were being triggered by something that was going on stage. It reminded them of an issue of their own, brought it up to the surface. Okay. Now, The empathic problem, as I understand it, is, yes, there's part of that there, but the empathic problem is different still. The empath can actually be just in the presence of somebody who's got some negative stuff going on and pick it up somehow. And that becomes a problem, you know, for them. And sometimes it's a very severe problem. Now, let me look at my notes here. Okay, so when I previously would say, okay, now so-and-so has an issue, a specific event, become that person, imagine their pain, or imagine their emotional issue, or whatever it would be. I think I even use the words feel it, okay? And then bring an unseen therapist for resolution. Now, what I meant by that was different than what those words say, and I understand those words were wrong at this point. What I meant by that, I was coming from where I'm coming from. When I say feel it, I don't really feel it. When I do it, I don't feel somebody else's pain someplace in their body. I don't feel their guilt. I don't feel their particular anger or their sore shoulder or any of that. It's like Sonia was saying, I sort of reference it. I don't tune into it and feel it. I recognize it. You know, I identify it, but I don't feel it. Now, I didn't realize that because that's what I do, that's what somebody else would do, because the word feel the pain means feel the pain, okay? And that's interpreted more literally by some than it is by me. So when we're dealing later on today with Shelley, as we continue on with some of the issues she's going to have, I'm going to introduce another way of going about this that hopefully is going to be useful for those who are having the empathic problems we're talking about. But in the meantime, I'm not really asking that you literally feel somebody else's material, stuff. If you need to, fine. I mean, I do that. I say it the way I say it because it helps me embed within me the idea of oneness. I can be somebody else and so on. If that's a problem for you, I don't think there's going to be any problem with you having that other person be over there. Put them in a bubble if you want, and you're in a bubble by yourself, and maybe altogether you're in a much larger oneness bubble, but you don't need to feel what they're feeling. Let me say this a little differently. Somebody else outside of me can be having an issue. Let's say they have a financial issue of some kind. Okay, fine with me. They have their financial issue. I have mine. I really don't get involved in theirs. I let them have their financial issue and they have to handle it however they handle it, okay? And I handle mine my way. If it's a relationship issue, you know, they can handle it their way and I handle it my way. I don't get involved in their relationship issue. And the same thing with a pain or emotional turmoil type thing. They can have theirs and I can have mine. That doesn't mean we aren't still one, and it doesn't mean there is some not connection between this, and that does not mean that there isn't this similarity in issues that we keep talking about. All our issues are basically one, that the details are just different. But I did want to draw that distinction for you. Now, that brings me to something that's important within optimal EFT, and why we need to get to these details and more graphic details to begin with. Let's go back to the tapping form of EFT to begin with. There are different ways to do this. What many people do on the internet is do what I call surface versions of EFT. It's the shallow end of the swimming pool. They try to use scripts or pre-designed words to help with some issue instead of customizing it to the details. And that's very surface. It only gets you just so far. They attend summits where some of these things are talked about more. they look at brief YouTube videos and this kind of thing. And all of that is fine if that's all you want to do on that level. But if you want to get down to what really counts and get down to the details and really do this job thoroughly, you need to get to the details, and those details tend to be graphic. It's one thing to say, from the tapping point of view, even though, you know, I had an abusive childhood, well, that's kind of general and only goes so far. But to get down to the specific, even though my father did X to me and I felt this and that and I could still smell and feel and all that other kind of stuff, getting down to the details, now that's really getting there. So this is why that's important. In optimal EFT, when we bring in unseen therapists, we have on many occasions been able to do a great deal of work, even addressing the issue more globally, more generally. Unseen therapist has a way of getting into some of the details itself, okay? And that is a real value in what we're doing here for some people. That's also very simple, and a lot of people like that. Very simple, just do this, etc. But it is limited, because for a lot of issues, it does not get down to the details of it. And the detail, all of these issues, every single issue we have is evidence to us of our belief in separation. That being, in the spiritual sense, the number one problem that we have, this belief in separation. All of these issues are unique to us, and they give us evidence that yes, we're separate because I have these unique problems, these separate problems, okay? And to the extent we only take care of a part of those problems, we have left some on the table, and the guard at the gate, our belief in separation, our resistance to all of this goes, yeah, maybe we've done something with that, but we're still unique. We still have these other details going on. So that's why it's important for many issues, and to do this thoroughly, to get down to the details. And so I'm left here with a bit of a dilemma, and I'm going to open the floor here in a minute because I want to have some discussions with some of you. I'm left with a bit of a dilemma in that here we have people that have empathic issues who get very worked up about this, and actually causes them pain on the one hand with these details. But on the other hand, if we don't do that, we leave a lot on the table. So I am hoping to solve this empath problem. And one thing that I want to do, and those of you who have the empathic difficulty, please make note of this. Send me an email. Go to our contact form on our website and send me an email and tell me that you are willing to attend a separate webinar just for the empaths, so that I can understand with all of you what's going on, and we can work together on some optimal EFT ways to hopefully solve that problem. Okay, now I've been sitting here talking for a while. Those of you who may have any kind of a question regarding the empath problem or anything we've talked about so far, and before we go on to Shelley, could I ask you now to raise your hand? Here I've got, well, I have one hand raised, but I think that was raised a little bit before. Oh, here's Beverly. Beverly Gowan, I'm gonna call on you. I'm gonna unmute you. Can you hear me, Beverly?
Yes, I can.
All right. So what's up?
Well, let's see. The empath. Yesterday, for some reason, my left rib started hurting really bad.
Okay. Sorry.
How rude.
Yeah.
And I couldn't figure out exactly why, because I wasn't really doing anything spectacular. It's just, and I think it's pretty much gone now because Sonia, I just tried to tap into her healing of you and it went away. So.
Oh, well, that's interesting. Now, we don't really know. I mean, it could just be coincidence, your ribs and all that,
Yeah.
All right. Anything else? Anything else you wanted to say on that?
Well, the first time I realized I was an empath, my son was a teenager, and I started having the most intimate relationship with a pickle because I could taste it, I could feel the crunch, and I thought, what the heck? And he came out of the kitchen with a handful of pickles. So, you know, I gained 10 pounds while he was in his teenage years.
Okay.
So, yeah, I do need to learn to control this.
Okay.
So,
all right. Anything else?
no.
Okay, great. Let me mute you here. Jade. All right, Jade, go ahead.
Okay, Gary. This empath thing can actually be quite bad for mediums as well. If you see a medium on a stage, they can feel people's pain in order to give evidence to the audience. But psychically, there are a couple of things you can do. And one of them is if you're not feeling safe with a client, you can actually say, put a mirror between you and them so that psychically anything that is negative, that is going to do you harm in your opinion, will be directed straight back at them again. And I think the idea of goggles is also a good idea. I bring in a white light. I cover my client with white light, but actually I just become one, and I'm not an empath. I can just go straight ahead and do it, and I don't feel pain.
Okay, and so you found a way around that, and that's why I want to have this webinar for empaths only, if you will. That's why I want to do that, and I'm also looking for a possible way to just eliminate the problem, like it was another issue. Okay, I don't know if we can do it or not, but we're at least going to give it a try. Okay, so great.
Thank you.
All right, thanks, Jade. Okay, now Elizabeth.
Yeah, hi.
Hi.
I'm glad you brought this up because I didn't realize that I was doing it until a little while ago. I've been doing EFT for years, but I noticed that I got sucked into other people's stuff easily, and I knew that it wasn't mine, but I didn't know where that was coming from, so I kept looking for it in me. And so I'm glad that I just want to say I'm glad that you're going to be addressing this issue so I can learn more about what I'm doing.
Well, I've been addressing it in one way for the last couple of weeks as it's been coming to my attention. I've had some really useful conversations with folks that are really into the empath thing greatly. And so I'm learning more and more about it. Charlene.
Hello. Hello.
Oh, I remember you. And is your hip still okay?
I can't believe it, but yes.
Okay.
Oh, crazy.
All right. No, wait. It's not crazy. Yes, we think it's crazy, but what we really want to do is get to the point where it becomes routine. It is expected, and then it's not crazy anymore. Okay.
I know, but other things have happened too, and just my way of expressing. It's crazy.
Okay. Anyway, you had comments on this issue?
Well, I've always been an empathetic person. I always pick up on the vibes and the feelings of other people, especially family members or close friends. And I can remember doing that as a kid. I would just know, and just feel. And like a sponge, I would just, soak up all these feelings. And not until recently do I realize that a lot of the feelings I had were of other people and not my own.
Yeah.
And you kind of get confused as a kid and a teenager. Sure. So, but I still struggle with it.
All right. Well, hopefully you will be in on this empaths webinar, and
yes.
You can, and so on. So, all right, great. Let me mute you. Unless you have more to say. You have more to say?
Just the thing with the left side. Yesterday, for some reason, all of a sudden I was feeling like in my neck and in my back, just these, all of a sudden, like a tension. And I did and I'll know that when that happens, for a few days, I'll be, I will be able to turn my neck like this, and it would just hurt. And I did what you did, and I just within the hour, I did the same thing. I asked the unseen therapist to come in because I was like, oh, I can't be held up for 2 days. I got a graduation party to go to. I got other things to do. And sure enough, when I woke up in the morning, it was minuscule. And that would never have happened before.
Yeah.
It would have taken days.
Yes. Okay, so we need, I mean, the message there is, while our ability to bring in unseen therapists, always remembering that we have our own resistance to this oneness type thing, by continually bringing her in all the time and seeing results at least some of the time, maybe not all of the time, we keep getting the idea, yes, there is help out there in the spiritual dimension that we're just not touching. Right. Until we start doing this, and then we get more and more. That allows us to get more and more and more in touch with it, get more and more into it, and get better and better results. That's the idea of it anyway.
Yeah, thank you. It's very exciting.
Okay. All right, hold on. Danielle.
Yes. Hello, Gary.
Hi, Danielle.
It's been a long time since we met. So I knew I was an empath.
Wait a minute. What's your last name?
Duperret.
Ah, that's what I thought. Yes, it has been a long time. Yes. Yeah. Okay, Danielle, well, go ahead.
Well, I knew I was an empath when I started to have backache when my mother was cleaning the house 100 miles away from me. I would call her and say, you done something? Because I'm hurting. Say, yeah, I cleaned the house.
Yeah.
Okay, so when I became a therapist and naturopath, I was afraid of dealing with people who had diseases because they would jump on me.
Yes.
And I had to solve them in me before I could solve them in them.
Yes.
And I got that, that machine I brought to you, the QXCI. And there is something in there to protect the therapist. So being an empath to me is just an energy. So depending on your belief, and now I don't have a problem anymore because to me it's a belief that the thing have to jump on me and I have to solve it. So now, if my animals, for instance, are not feeling good, I want to feel very briefly what's the matter with them, but then I can release it. The same thing with people.
Yes.
It's like, if I need to feel it, I want to feel it, but then I can release it. I'm not keeping it anymore.
Well, the way you do that and how you do that and all that can be part of this webinar that I'm proposing. That would be helpful to everybody. Okay?
Okay.
All right. Thanks, Danielle. Okay, let me just do here, Susan's. Let me do one more. Susan's, S-U-S-A-N''S.
Hi, Gary. Can you hear me?
Oh, hi, Susan.
Hi, it's Susan Kennard from the UK.
Yeah.
Hi. Yes, I just wanted to add something, being a practitioner, how I found being a medium as well over the last 24 years. I can feel what's going on with somebody, but as I'm working with them and being a practitioner, what I do is I actually bring golden light around me. Don't know if you can hear me, but yeah, golden light around me. And what seems to happen with that is I have an intention before I see my client. So I protect myself, but not in a sense of I'm worried about getting hurt or in any way taking on somebody else's emotions. Just protect my energy so that it's the brightest and clearest that it can be. And I have the intention for my client that they are the same. So I already see them as whole rather, and ready to just get out there in the world. So whatever's going on with them, I see them as already healed. And that's quite a good tip for anybody who's working with clients. So rather than seeing them as they have this issue or this problem, seeing them as completely healed.
Yeah, and thank you. And that ultimately, at least from my understanding, that's the ultimate place we want to get, in that we see them as whole and healed. The way the Course in Miracles unfolds, it talks about that as well. It uses a form of what it calls vision, which is not eyesight. It is seeing something, but it's not the eyesight. But seeing them as whole and complete, and all the stuff that they have becomes part of the dream and just sort of flits off and fades. But to get from where many people are from where they are now to this ability to genuinely see somebody as you have done, as you, because you've been at this a long time. We've had conversations before.
Yeah.
You have developed your own, you climb the spiritual ladder in your own way.
Yes.
To a point where you can do this now. And so to me, that becomes a more elevated place that we get to.
But also, Gary, what it is really important is to work on yourself. So constantly working on yourself. You know, we never get it done. And I think the clearer our energy fields are, the better and clearer practitioner we can be.
And that plugs into what I've been saying here for the last several webinars. We need to climb the spiritual ladder ourselves. The more we do so, the more we radiate, if you will, not only love, but the pleasance of our presence is one of the phrases that I use. And our mere presence becomes more and more healing. Okay.
Yes.
So that's all part of this grand equation that has so many pieces to it that we're looking at. Okay. Thank you, Susan.
Thanks.
Okay. I do have one more hand. I will ask on that, and then we'll turn to Shelley, okay? John David Biggs.
Hello, Gary. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Good man. I've been a follower of you for many years, delighted with the help you've given me as a therapist, and I just wanted to speak briefly on empathy and being an empath. I have found that what an empath means to me is the ability to go beyond those feelings, whether positive or negative, and to connect with the same soul that I am.
And that's all of us being one.
Exactly, yes. So I find that by remembering that connection, one has a sort of a triangle, both participant and therapist can connect with the still point that we are, and the problems can be seen in that field rather than the client having the problem and me trying to either shield myself or solve it.
Yes, and thank you. And so I hope you're going to join in on our empaths webinar, you know, because see what you just talked about there, at least from what I'm hearing, is that there is a properly done a benefit to being the empath. It isn't all just I feel somebody else's pain and it's wiping out my next week for me. Okay, that's one part. But another part of it is you're more able to tune into somebody. There's more evidence to you of the oneness and so on. So how we work within that and generate the benefits, maintain the benefits, and see if we can't do something with the negative part of it.
Exactly.
Is what we're going to be addressing, you know, in this webinar when it comes up.
See you Sunday. Yeah.
I didn't hear you. I'm sorry, John. Okay, you cut out. I think you said see you a week from Sunday, but somehow or other your audio is cut, so I'm going to have to mute you. But thank you, John. There you are. Hold on. I'll tell everybody why I'm giggling here for a minute. Shelley, arrogant monkey's baby. Okay, hold on a second. Are you there, Shelley?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
I keep having things popping up on my screen. It's driving me crazy.
Well, ignore them for the moment because you're coming through fine and all of that.
All right.
But what I was giggling about was you put your name up here on my list, you know, and you call it the arrogant monkey's baby. Now that's something you and I understand, but I think it's worthwhile and not only entertaining, but I hope instructional for others. So you and I, since our session last time, I had some discussions about what was going on. I tested some of the things and all of that, and the fact that you were once labeled as a monkey's baby by your mother just didn't seem to bother you anymore, right?
No.
Okay. But the other thing was, I want to go over this a second because this is something that a lot of people deal with. You were carrying on Wait, first of all, I need to make sure I have your permission to talk about the things we
No problem.
Okay. You were carrying on a large amount of guilt having to do with how your son was raised and issues that he's now facing, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And it was like you were being overprotective on the one hand, overreactive maybe on the other hand, and he was picking a lot of stuff up, and therefore issues that he's having was, of course, you would blame yourself for that.
Yes.
I have that right?
You got it right.
Okay. And that, of course, is something that all of us parents face in one way, shape, or form. Because as we raise children, we would, and get down the road, who among us would not love to turn back the clock and redo some of our behaviors, some of the things that we said, decisions we made, and so on, if we had the opportunity to do so. We make mistakes along the way. I've done it every... I don't know anybody who hasn't. But what's interesting is, yes, the child is influenced by the parent, of course. But the child is also influenced by its peers, by the television set, by movies and books and the drug pushers and Lord knows what else is out there. And as time goes on, the child tends to want to pay more attention to the outside influences because they don't want to even bother with the parents because they're an authoritative nuisance. Okay. Yet, what we tend to do is blame ourselves for any problems our children have because we didn't parent correctly. And the thing we came up with was that for us to think that we have the power to combat all these other influences and just have our beauteous parenthood cover everything and solve all these issues is arrogant beyond belief. Okay. It is giving way too much weight,
yes,
to the influence we have. And once we understand that, then the guilt we would have for these things start to lift. Yes, do we deserve a little guilt for some of the things we did? Yes, myself included and so on. I would love to turn the clock back, but does it need to be quite as heavy as we take it? Not really. Did I say that right?
You did.
Okay. So we are going to go on now, but first I want to test some things with you, and I need to say something to the empaths that are out there. As I said earlier, we need to get to graphic details here to do this job as thoroughly as we can. So we are going to get into some graphics here. If at this point in your development and all of this, if that's going to be too much for you, I'm telling you in advance, just cut it out and leave the webinar and go watch the recording someday if you wish. But I'm just telling you in advance that it's the nature of this to have some graphics there. Otherwise, we're leaving stuff on the table we shouldn't be leaving. So at any rate, I want first of all to test or talk about the testing that we did for last time. Last time, one of these things had to do with your dog that was in the refrigerator mistakenly and so on and died. You told me as we tested that this week that there were, not only was that one pretty much put to bed, you weren't having the big heavies on that anymore, but there were two other dog incidences that also left at that time. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. Our family dog that we had for a very long time, he became in a lot of pain and very sick, and my father and my uncles took him out into the bush, not too far from the house, and they shot him, and I heard his last cry. Okay. That weighed very heavy on me.
Okay, and that's no fun even to hear now. There's a very normal type grief response to that. But what we were talking about is the excess response, the over the top, the oh my God kind of stuff that's still here years later. That doesn't seem to be there, or do I have that wrong?
No, you have that right. I understand now why they had to do it. He was suffering and we didn't have the money to go to the bed. I don't even know if that's even existed where I lived. They had to put him out of his pain.
Okay. All right. And then one thing we did not address during all of that was your fear of being in a car with someone and driving someplace.
Yes.
And you had some resolution on that before, but you had some anxiety about that. And in this case, right after our workshop or after our session, you had to travel with somebody a long distance, and there were storms, and that also added to the anxiety, etc. And apparently you were fine all the way through.
Yes.
Okay.
Except for 2 little incidents when we first left and when I got close to home, but that was somebody driving very fast and they just stopped very quickly. You know, even my husband was startled by that, so that was normal.
Yeah, you were, if I recall it, you were having normal startle response.
Normal, yeah.
Okay, all right. But the over the top, the excess, the I don't want to drive and get in a car under any circumstances.
That was gone.
Yeah, that was gone. Okay, all right. The rape incident, the hate involved in that, discuss that, would you?
That's gone now.
Well, when you say gone, say more about it.
It's not hurting me anymore. I know I wasn't the only victim of his, and I know from speaking to family this week, it was commonplace where I'm from that children were raped, even family members raping their own kids.
Yeah. Okay, now, you also had the relief last time as we were doing emotional issues of this chest pain that you had had like for over a month or over a month, I think something like that.
Over a month.
Yeah, over a month. And it would clear from the front of your chest, clear onto your back, as I recall it.
Right, in the lung areas.
Yeah. And that subsided completely, if I remember it right, during our session last time.
Right.
Now, did it come back?
No, I just have pain still from my neck, from Olga, from my throat and in my esophagus area.
And when you say from Olga,
when you did that session on Olga, I had pain here, and it's not gone away since.
Okay, so you somehow picked up whatever. My guess is that some of her issues were parallel to yours.
Yes.
Because they tended to be rejection type issues, which is basically what we're going to deal with today as we move on with you. And that shows up here like it showed up with her.
Yes.
Okay. All right. You also told me during the week when we talked that your asthma, which this pain in your chest, you know, this is my understanding. When your pain in your chest got difficult, you would have to take 1, maybe 2 pumps from your asthma device.
2 different types of pumps.
Okay. To give some of that relief, that was a way to help relieve. I mean, that pain in your chest was a symptom of your asthma.
Yes.
Right. So pump.
Yeah.
Symptom helps to subside, breathe better. I have it right?
Right.
Okay. So since then, if I recall right, you haven't had to use your pump.
I had to use it today.
Oh, you use it today. But for the several days in between, did you use it at all?
No.
Okay.
It's because my neighbor, he's using illegal pesticides next door. And I got home this afternoon, and then I got a whiff of that. So I'm in pain right now.
Okay. So what that says to me, and remember, I'm not a doctor, but I need to have you verify this. What that says to me is even though the asthma is still there, and things like pesticides and other influences can aggravate it, it has improved to the point where you don't need to use that pump as often.
Exactly.
I said it right?
Right.
Not gone, but improved.
Right.
Okay. And we didn't address asthma itself during our session.
No.
Okay. So all of that, what all of that talks about, and the thing I want to emphasize here is that as we address emotional issues, particularly as we get down to the details and sometimes the graphic details of these issues, that's when we start to eliminate or reduce the emotional cause of our physical things. And that's, in my experience, is what happened here. Does it seem right to you or not?
Seems right to me.
Okay. All right. Now, you wrote me a number of specific events. And rather than read them all straight out as I have done before, let me make a note here. Where are you? There are a number of specific events here that you put down. And as I read through them, I see a thread through them. And that has to do with, as you were growing up, there were numerous, if not a non-stop parade of rejection type events.
Exactly.
Okay. Rejected, 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 rejected. Right?
Right.
Okay. And all of that as you're a young child and being rejected consistently keeps building up things like I'm not lovable, something's wrong with me, and things like that, correct? Okay. So that as we go through these and you start eliminating them, hopefully, using optimal EFT, we would hope to get you higher and higher and higher up the level of, you know, I don't have this big rejection. I don't see rejection at every turn. Okay. One of the things you mentioned was that when you're out walking in public with your husband, he tends to walk in front of you,
Yes.
leaving you behind, thereby you feeling rejected.
Right.
And when you tune, I can see the tears starting now. Do I see them? Okay.
Yes.
All right. And this likely plugs into all the other rejections from childhood. Here is yet another example of it, right?
Right.
Now, what I'm hoping here is that we're going to take one of these rejection issues, one of them, and deal with it thoroughly. And the hope is that with this one, it will generalize over the rest. Typically with the tapping, I need to do 5, 10, 15, 20 of these, something like that, before we knock the center out of the rejection issue. We're going to do one, and I want to see how well that generalizes, if at all. I mean, we don't know what's going to happen. We're going to take one, okay? And I can take any of them here. Do you want me to pull one up, or do you have one you want to just bring up?
Whatever you feel.
All right, let me look at the list here a second.
I'm having chest pain right now.
Okay, as you tune into these issues.
Not the asthma chest pain, but a different chest pain.
Oh, it's not the same chest pain.
No.
Okay, but it is a. Okay.
But I told you since I've been doing EFT, optimal EFT, that type has gone. I'm just getting it back right now.
Okay, and
I've been able to keep it under control myself.
Okay, that's because you are now tuning into the issue. You know it's coming up.
Yeah.
And your system now is giving us a physical response.
Yes.
Okay, so, and by the way, you had headaches yesterday. Headaches today?
Slightly. I happened to have to take ibuprofen last night. Normally I don't like taking drugs, but it was just lasting too long, and I finally gave into it.
Okay.
But so now it's returning slightly.
What number would it be currently? A 1, a 2, a 5, what?
A 4.
4, okay.
I know I'm stressed right now.
Okay, but in the chest pain, what number?
Well, it just stopped. It was coming on sharp pains, and now it's gone.
Well, what was it, number-wise?
6.
Okay. Okay, let me look at this list here.
Oh, there it is again.
Okay. These are really quite graphic, and I want to be graphic, so I'm going to advise people that may not want graphic stuff to come off the webinar, because I'm going to say this anyway. Okay, so all right, let me read this. Okay, my mother, besides locking me up, she would make me sit on a hard bench behind the wood stove. One particular occasion, she made me sit naked and shoved a hot bowl of oatmeal between my legs. She also did not want me eating from their dishes. I had a green bowl for me. Okay? How's the chest pain when we say that?
It's not there right now. I said, it just comes and goes, stabs.
Okay. As I was saying that, what emotional intensity did you get to?
10.
10. Okay. All right. So, let me take a look here. I noticed only one person left when I asked, or give people the opportunity to leave. What I'm going to do now is we're going to do this at a couple of levels. One of this is I've had a lot of feedback from you about liking this idea of radiating love that I talked about. So we're going to practice that first before we do something specific for Shelley. Okay. And so here's the way it would work. Let me give you instructions first, and then in a moment we'll all close our eyes and do this. And that is to recall sometime in your past, sometime in your lifetime, when you had a loving incident. I know for you, Shelley, it happened to be when you were well down one time, you actually had God appear. Okay. But it doesn't have to be that dramatic. It could be a pet licking you on the face. It could be something with a child, something with a spouse, something you saw in a movie, a loving moment. And the idea here is to simply close your eyes and get into that loving moment. Do that now. And then in a bit, I'm going to give you some instructions while you're doing it. So for the moment, get into it. Now, if you happen to be someone with the empath issue, just imagine or recall a time when you empathically reacted to something, and then let this love expand and cover it over, dissipate it. Now, while you're doing this, you may have noticed that as you expand this love, you may have, and likely have, reached some limit where you don't expand any further. Maybe your thoughts go off to something else or this kind of thing. And so, whether or not you've done that, spend a moment and bring in unseen therapists to resolve any blocks there may be to further expanding it. And then as you do that, see if you can't expand it still further. So you fill yourself with love.
Daniel, I'm in session.
Where's the oil for penny?
I don't know, under the sink, Chuck.
I did.
I don't know.
Okay, now while you're doing that, imagine a large ball in which everybody on this call exists. Everybody's in the ball, you're in the ball, and expand this, the love, to include everyone in the ball, understanding everyone else is including you. Okay, Shelley, just so you know, I mean, there were some distractions, at your house, so I muted part of that. Okay, so you were on mute all that time, or a lot of that time. Okay, I'm curious. Even though we did not address directly the oatmeal between the legs issue and the green bowl and all of that, tune back into that now and tell me if you're still a 10.
No, I'm calmer now.
Well, all right, but let's test it a little bit more. Close your eyes and vividly imagine that. Try to get yourself worked up and tell me what happens. Take your time.
Maybe a 2, but I don't feel to cry anymore.
Okay. All right. All right. How is the throat?
I actually do have a little bit of relief, but I'm still getting the stabbing chest pain.
And what number is the stabbing chest pain?
When I get it, it's like a 5, but it's not consistent. It just keeps happening, like the stabbing pain.
Okay. All right. And what about the headaches?
That's slight.
Well, what you estimated a 4-1. Is it still a 4 or 3 or 2 or what?
No, like a 2. It's more in front now.
Okay. All right. All right. What I'd like to do now is go to another specific event. All right. And the reason I'm going to another one is I want to see, we're going to do another process like similar to what we just did, but launching off of that for you and for everybody, actually. And let me emphasize, if I don't say it again, the reason we do this as a group is twofold. One, we're helping Shelley, but number two, since in the spiritual dimension we are all one, helping Shelley helps you. You may not have the identical details of Shelley's issue involved, but you have been rejected yourself. You likely have rejection or unlovability issues or I don't count issues or things like that. And those things begin to assist you. I'm also hoping that you have done your homework here, your preparation, and made your list of 5 specific events, and you're starting to assess whether or not those are improving as we do all this group work, presumably for Shelley, but actually for everyone. Okay. All right. I'm going to read another one. Okay. Again, it's graphic, but this is what it says. When one of my brothers was beating his wife, punching her in the stomach while pregnant, she screamed for me to get help. He went and got a shotgun and held it to my head and said he would kill me if I moved. Yesterday when we talked about that was a 10. Is that still a 10 at the moment?
8.
Okay. What tells you it's an 8?
Not feeling as angry as I was yesterday.
Okay.
I have a feeling since you've been talking about empathy, I think maybe I picked something up from you and from my friend, my son's friend, who is a medium. She came to me and talked to me last night, and she hasn't been feeling good all week.
So you think you're picking up some of their
Yeah.
issues? You're picking up my rib issues, for example?
I had a severe neck pain for 2 days.
Okay. Well, my neck was never involved, just so you know.
No, but for some reason I had a sore neck. I don't know why.
Yeah. Okay.
I couldn't turn it very well.
All right. So what we're going to do now is something similar to what we just did, but I'm going to launch off of it because we have already gotten into the point where we have developed this loving state, which is basically bringing in the unseen therapist. Okay. So, and we've had ways to expand that. So now we're going to take where we left off with that expanded love, do it a little bit differently this time. So if you would, close your eyes, and I'll give you instructions for this. And this is going to be for everybody except Shelley. I'll give Shelley her own in a moment. And that is to pick up where you left off as far as feeling all the love, if you will, and then understanding Shelley is in this very large ball that contains everybody. Shelley is actually at the center of it. But share this love with everyone, with the understanding, not necessarily the feeling, of Shelley's rejection issues under these details. Share love with the whole group, particularly Shelley. And understanding as you're sharing love, you're not letting the love go, you are radiating the love, you are keeping the love and sharing it. And Shelley, what I would have you do is to just close your eyes and share gratitude with everyone else. Not necessarily zeroing in on your own specific event. Just share gratitude for everyone else. 2 minutes, guys. See you in a bit. Okay, Shelley, I had you muted, but I can see the tears. Tell me what's going on.
I'm feeling the love that I felt that one time.
With God?
Yeah.
So these aren't sad tears?
No.
Oh, okay. All right. All right, I wanted to understand that. I want to read back this specific event to you again. I'd like to have you, as I read it back, go ahead and tune into the details and tell me if you're still an 8 or whatever you are, okay? And whatever you are, by the way, is fine. We don't have to have perfection here, okay? When one of my brothers was beating his wife, punching her in the stomach while pregnant, she screamed for me to get help. He went and got a shotgun and held it to my head and said he would kill me if I moved. What number?
A 6, but it's different.
All right, that's very important to understand. Thank you. How is it different?
I'm looking at the pain he must have been in to do something like that.
All right, thank you. That is so important, and this is one reason we get down to these details, because what you just did in EFT terms is shifted aspects. That's something that's really need to understand for those who want to get into sophisticated levels. Now it has shifted from the fear or whatever the emotion was of having a shotgun at your head, the rejection sense, and so on, to the sadness for what he must have been feeling. I have it right?
Right.
Tell me now, what is your emotional response zeroing in just on the shotgun to your head? Is that a 0, a 3, of what?
It's a 0.
Okay. All right. I can't tell you how important it is and how important it is to get to these details. If we don't get to these details, these are little bits and pieces. The guard at the gate says, you know, we may have done some of this stuff, but you still have this unique thing, and we want to keep on to that, because that's evidence of our unique separateness, because now we have this sadness about this particular event that, of course, came from the separate state.
I'm still hanging on to as well my thoughts on my son. It's still going great.
It's still going great?
Yes. I feel great with my son now. It's been 2 months now. I never had that before.
Okay, I think we talked about this before in the webinar, but just to make sure, you were having, Lager has lots of problems before
all the time.
All of this. And now what you've been doing is using unseen therapist, optimal EFT every night when you go to bed.
Even throughout the day.
Love and throughout the day.
Sending him love and sending him, you're going to be okay, son. You're going to be okay. And I'll do this throughout the day, at night, in the morning, all the time. And we're just getting along fantastic.
Okay. And what you were doing.
My way of thinking is staying for that.
So important, Shelley. God, do I have gratitude for you, for that. Because this is what you're doing is a form of reconditioning. Our senses are conditioning about the separate world 24/7. They've been doing it for decades. And now we're bringing in the spiritual dimension. It needs a form of reconditioning. And just as Sonia throughout the day did this thing for my ribs and my physical injury, that's what you're doing for you and your son in that relationship. Got it right?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Now, let me talk about this 6 sadness that you're having. Remind me, it was for the brother with the shotgun, right?
Yes.
And put words around it. It's because why would he want to do that? It's very sad.
Yes.
Okay. Now you call that a 6. To me, just by the numbers, that may be a little over the top, a little excess, not necessarily normal, but I'll leave that to you. Is that a normal type of sadness to you, or is that a bit too much?
I realized the past 2 weeks that he was abused as well by my mother. So I'm connecting with his pain.
Okay.
He's never been able to be in a relationship. He's alone.
Okay, you are empathically connected to his pain.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. I say all these words knowing communication can really be difficult, you know, because it's just words. But you are picking up this sadness, if you will, and I'm going to speculate, but again, you have to correct me, that picking this up empathically means you are feeling it more than you really need to. It's one thing to understand it. It's one thing to have concern about it and so on. It's another thing to actually feel it. And what we'd like to get to do, unless you object, is to get to the point where we really understand it, but we don't necessarily have to feel it. Would that?
Oh, yeah, I need that.
Okay. All right. So, and this would help all the empaths out there, because we're taking a specific event, we're taking an empathic type issue, and we're going to bring in unseen therapists to address that issue. And I want to see if that helps you. If it helps you, it can help others along the line. So again, we're going to have some directions here. So if you would, close your eyes, everybody. And again, Shelley, you will be sending gratitude back as you did before. Okay. But everybody else, please tune in whatever way you need to Shelley's over-the-top empathic feelings of sadness, you know, about this issue. What we're addressing here is the unnecessary part of it, the part of it that limits Shelley, and hence could limit you if you're an empath, and bring in unseen therapists to resolve that issue. Put gentleness on it, put love on it, joy, peace, whatever form of love you radiated before, bring that in. 2 minutes. See you in a bit. Okay. Shelley, how you doing? What? Wait a minute. I had you muted just a minute. Okay. Shelley, how you doing?
I'm doing good.
Okay. Close your eyes. This is a test. Okay. Close your eyes for me now, if you would. Go back to that scene where the shotgun's in your head and get to this sense of your sadness, your empathic reaction to that. And tell me if it's still a 6 or some other number.
It's a 0 now.
It's a 0.
Yeah.
Okay.
I feel strength within me. I feel I have a message that I'm going to help all of them.
You have all of them, meaning your family?
Yes. Or anybody.
Okay. All right. All right. If you would, close your eyes and go back to the entire shotgun experience, specific event. Relive it vividly and actually try to get yourself upset by exaggerating sights, sounds, feelings, and so on, because we're looking for what's left. And tell me what happens.
Just a slight feeling when I hear her screaming.
All right. All right. Now, I'm going to read yet another of your specific events.
Okay.
I'd like to know, after I read this, what your 0 to 10 number is for it, okay? Again, this is graphic, so for those who don't want to hear graphic, this is your chance, okay? Another brother tormented me one day by making me hang from a high bar. I was scared. He later hid a piece of feces between 2 chips and tried to get me to eat it. What number?
6.
All right, what makes it a 6?
I find that so pathetic and horrible that a brother would try to make me do that. And it would have been shameful if I didn't discover it before.
Okay. Okay.
Kind of angry.
Okay. I heard angry in there. I heard disgusting. I didn't hear rejection. And yet that is at least to my perception, a highly rejecting type issue. Do you feel rejected by it? Is rejection part of it?
A little bit, not much.
Okay. Well, did I have it?
I'm not sure I ever correlated that with rejection.
Oh, okay.
I think it was more like, I don't know, bullying, abuse. I don't know.
Well, okay. It depends on how we define these things. All right. One more time here with Shelley on this. And then I'm going to open the floor, unless Shelley has more she wants to do. I'm going to open the floor to everybody for questions, comments, and so on. So everybody, if you would, please close your eyes. And again, Shelley, you're going to send the gratitude back as you've done before. Okay. And everyone else, I forgot to say this last time, so I'll say it this time. Imagine this large ball that contains everybody on this call. And everybody has a rejection or anger or disgust issue, depending on what words you give to it, whose details may be different than this. But put Shelley in the center of the ball. Bring in that loving, expanded, radiated moment and share it with the group and focus on Shelley, all having to do with this issue of hanging from a high bar and basically having to be forced to eat something she didn't want to eat. And I'll see you in 2 minutes. Bring an unseen therapist to resolve. See you in 2 minutes. Okay, Shelley. Whoops, wait a minute, I gotta unmute you. Hold on a second. There you are, okay. Right, yeah. Right, okay, let me see. Close your eyes. Go through that event once again, in detail, again, looking, exaggerating, trying to find stuff to get you worked up about. Let me know what happens.
You can't feel anything.
Okay. All right, now, there are more things on your list here, but what I want to point out is, to begin with, because I talked to you about this yesterday, or day before yesterday, but all of these issues to begin with were a 10. When we started, the first one was a 10. That went down essentially to 0. The next one we came to was an 8 to begin with, not a 10. The next one was a 6 to begin with, not a 10. That is evidence that as we start to take care of some of these issues, it generalizes over others, okay? Now, I'm going to use a phrase here, which is coming from your email to me, stuck in and amongst all the rest of these issues. And I want to know on a scale of 0 to 10, what emotional response you get from it, okay? And here's the term. Shitty Shelley.
Maybe a 3.
Okay. Spelled, by the way, S-H-I-D-D-Y. Okay. But we know what that basically means, and that again is a rejection type issue.
That's the Irish accent.
Oh, that's the Irish accent.
Sorry.
Well, it started at a 10. Okay, now it's as we address it again, it's a 3, and so on it goes. So as we deal with more and more and more of these, the chances are they were generalized over the whole thing. Sometimes I will do this, and in one specific event, it will generalize over everything. Not all the time. This one didn't do that. So far, we're on 3 of them, and we probably still need to do a 4th, a 5th, a 6th, etc., instead of 10, 15, or 20. Okay, so I'm just pointing that out for perspective purposes. Okay, Shelley, I want to open this to other folks for their questions, comments, etc. But do you have anything else more you want to go over or say? Or
yes,
anything?
I'm really glad you spoke about empathetic today.
Uh-huh.
After seeing your newsletter, I realize I have that big time. I know when my son is not feeling well. I know when my husband's not feeling well. I really feel it. And now I can tune into it. I also wrote to you about this store I frequent. There's a lot of people that go there. It's packed. The aisles are not very big, and a lot of regulars go there. And I can point out at least 5 people that I cannot stand to be around. Just very bad vibes come off of them, and I feel agitated when I'm near them. But now I'm making a point to be near them, and I'm doing the optimal EFT when I get near them, and I'm feeling better. And actually, today I made a point to actually speak to one that bothered me the most, and she responded to me, and we laughed.
Okay.
So this is just amazing to me.
Okay, gratitude all over you, my dear. I'm showering. I'm turning on the shower, and gratitude's coming all over you. One, for sharing all of this with us. That's number one, because these things are personal and oftentimes private and so on. So thank you. And the other thing is you're helping me emphasize the idea of this conditioning, to keep it going. And you are also pointing to a possibility using Unseen Therapist, Optimal EFT, for unlinking this empathic reaction to people. It may be that others can do similar things to what you're doing, and the empath workshop that I've talked about earlier. And hopefully getting beyond this. We shall see.
I'll be there.
Okay, but I give you my gratitude. Okay, so I'm now going to mute you. Lower your hand. Thank you, Shelley. Now, what I'd like to do is open the floor to anyone who wants to raise their hand. What I'd like to discuss with you is, one, any comments or questions you have about the session we just did. That's one. Number two, have you gotten results from the hopefully 5 specific events that you you came to this meeting with, on your list? Those are things we want to explore, see where we're going with this, and so on. So if you would, it's time to raise hands. Susan B. Cooper.
Hello, I'm here.
Hi, Susan.
Hi.
So what's going on?
Well, several things happened, but one especially was powerful. When you had us visioning the ball of energy or love, it was the first time in my life I've really recognized how much I give out instead of taking in. And it was very powerful to realize that all the people in the ball were giving to me just like I was giving to them, or the unseen therapist was giving to everyone equally. It wasn't just all those other people. I was on the receiving end too.
Yeah, and thank you, Susan, because that's more evidence that we are all one, which is one of the things we're trying to preach here in a way, and keep giving evidence of, and so on. And yes, while we are doing this in a giving way for Shelley and everyone else, we are also receiving, and sometimes we have our own blocks to receiving. We don't deserve it, or we shouldn't, or what, there's all kinds of conditioning goes into that, So did you happen to notice if there was any change in specific events, or did you happen to do those?
Yes, I have similar issues to Shelley as far as different stories, but the issue of not feeling acceptable and accepted, and most of those came from my mother. And I have a couple of things that I thought about during this too that came up for me at the same time that were on my list, and they began as 10s today, and I've worked on them over the last few weeks, but again they were at 10 today. I guess I just allowed myself really to get into them, and they've both gone down to 6.
Down to 6. Okay.
Yes.
More work to do, but I would also point out the possibility of that which you're calling a 6 may indeed, and I'm not saying it happens with you, it happens with others, so I'm sort of teaching to a broader audience here. Mm-hmm. I've often seen things go from 10 to 0 on the particular issue we involved with, but what appears to be a 6 is now an aspect, a related issue, just as Shelley went from 10 to near 0 and then came back to a 6 of sadness, if you will. That may be happening here. Okay. So
exactly. And another part of this was, I can't remember what you called it, something about aspects, but that what I realized was that my mother had to be in a lot of emotional pain at the time that she was doing and saying the things that she did. And I know that intellectually. I've known that in the past, but this time I got it more on a feeling level for really the first time.
Yeah. Okay. And that's yes. That's one of the things that is a benefit of doing this group work, bringing in the spiritual presence. Otherwise, by comparison, we're tending to do EFT, for example, mechanically, and we're not really bringing in the spiritual. I mean, we can bring in the spiritual, but the process itself is more mechanical when you do the tapping.
Correct.
Without it, we're bringing in a new level. Okay.
Yeah. That's why this appeals to me. It's so compelling because it does take you to a totally different level immediately, I think.
Yeah, and you start bringing stuff up you didn't see before, and so on. And it's really important to put this stuff on the table. Remember, the guard at the gate loves to keep us separate, okay? And so if we leave the details alone and sort of tiptoe around them, as is often done with some of the more surface uses of EFT, we leave so much on the table, the guard at the gate just puts them in his bag and says, see, you're separate, you're separate, you're separate, you know, unique, 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 it's your problem. No, you know. Very clever, that little dude. All right. Okay, Susan, thank you.
Thank you, Gary.
Okay. Linda Carr.
Hello, Gary.
Hi, dear.
Hi. I haven't checked my 5 events yet. They're in another part of my book. But I want to connect with you about a couple other things, and then I'll find those and get back to you.
Okay.
Okay. I made a note here. You know, I've been a little challenged to understand the guard at the gate and the separateness and etc.
Uh-huh.
And so you said something today, you kind of just said it again. And so this is what I wrote, and this is what I feel I might be able to understand, you know, deeply and incorporate it into my life and my practice.
Sure.
So the guard at the gate, which is also me and my ego are that guard.
Yeah, you, your ego, and your resistance to going beyond the separated state.
Okay. And so that is always reminding me, you're unique. Look at these traumas you've had. Look at these problems you have. Look at this history you have. You have this unique separateness, and that is what I use to prove to myself that I have and deserve limitations.
Oh, A+++ for you. Yes, thank you, student.
Oh, that's so good, because I've had a hard time getting it. I just couldn't get a hold of it. But I've got this now, and I feel emotional about it because it's a very big wow.
Well, let me add to the wow for a moment in something I would emphasize that's on our introductory articles. I know most of you have read those. I would read them again and again and again because you'll see more each time you do that. But one of the issues in there, one of the articles is there is only one problem. And thank you, Linda, because it allows me to expand on something. We believe in the separated state. We have unlimited problems. We have financial problems. We have health problems. We have relationship problems. We have this problem, that problem, the other. We have business problems. If we're in the healing fields, our clients have problems, and we have problems trying to help them with the problems. And if you catch your thoughts and really monitor them, you'll find that you flip from problem to problem to problem to problem with great regularity. That's what we do. We're forever solving problems. And as soon as we solve a problem or two or three, there's another half dozen show up. It's endless, okay? However, as you study this and get more into it and begin to own it and get beyond just the academics of it, you begin to realize, what's the right term? That they are all evidences of being separate. They are all separate type problems, unique to you. You may have relationship problems just like somebody else does, but theirs are theirs and yours are yours, and they're unique. That keeps you separate. However, once we realize that the only problem is our belief in separation. Mind you, I didn't say our only problem is separation. It's our belief in separation. We cannot actually separate from our source. It is impossible to do, but we can believe we do it. And that is what's going on. We believe that we are separate. And so we develop all of these problems that came about from separation. Once we fade the belief in separation, which is a process, a form of reconditioning, if you will. And as it fades, we begin to climb the spiritual ladder more and more. Lots of words. How'd I do, Linda?
You did great. You did great. Oh, I had a little something there. I'm not sure I can get it back, but, you know, it's something like, so that belief in separation, even though I can look around me, you know, and clearly see and know that many other people have different kinds of problems, that somehow I'm still unique in my problems.
Yes.
Even though I might be able to say they deserve, well, everything, I might not be able to believe I do because I'm still unique.
And yes, and we actually, the more you get into it, we actually, in one form, cherish that belief. I am separate. I am unique. Look at my trophies. Or I am a victim. That makes me different. Or whatever. Okay, it's a rainbow of uniqueness, a rainbow of things that we say, ah, this is me. Okay.
Yeah.
And we need to graduate from there.
Yeah, I can feel that in me sometimes. Now, just one more real quick thing, and then I'm going to go back in my book. I'll find my stuff, and I'll raise my hand again if there's time. But another thing that happened, thank you for that, throughout that time with Shelley, I felt this big opening in my heart in regards to my own mom. And so that was really nice. It was during one of our practices.
Yes.
I just felt, you know, really felt that feeling like this opening that felt like love and forgiveness and acceptance of my mom.
Yes.
So that was wonderful. And I want to thank Shelley. You're awesome, Shelley.
Okay.
Yeah, and so that's all for now, Gary. Thank you so much.
Actually, that's not all for now. I'm glad I have you here. You and I had a conversation here during the week. I just want to hit some highlights if it's okay with you.
Sure.
Okay.
Sure.
The last time we had a webinar, you were in the bliss capsule, so to speak. We talked about that and all of that. Now, you were in there for like 2 weeks. Now,
correct.
Between then and now, you've fallen out of the bliss capsule. In fact, you went down to the bottom of the well someplace. We talked about that. Then you were trying to boot back, get back to the webinars and get back into it, etc. And so I just want to alert people that this is part of the process. You now have had a taste of what it's like to venture outside of the separate world. You have seen some bliss. You haven't gone all the way up the spiritual ladder, but far enough up to go, wow, okay? Now, you've fallen back up. Guard at the gate, got a hold of you, say, oh, come back off the ladder, okay. But we at least have a sense now of what's going on. And I just wanted to point that out. You're in this process. You want to comment on that some?
Well, a little bit. You know, what you and I just talked about in regards to the guard at the gate really helps me to see a little bit more what happened, because I was, you know, for 2 full weeks pretty much in this state of bliss, this state of oneness, this state of suspension. I was just like, wow. And then as you remember, I felt that I had gotten triggered by Shelley last week, and that's what had kind of knocked me out of bliss. And then you and I talked, and you proposed the idea that perhaps it was not that I got triggered as much as it was my own guard at the gate saying, correct?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, and so when we were talking this week, I couldn't quite get that. You might remember that when we were on the phone and you were recording that conversation, I was kind of vacillating in my sort of like yes, no, yes, no. I just couldn't get on that page of really believing that was possible, because my understanding of the guard at the gate and my unique separateness, I wasn't getting that. So as the week has gone on, you know, I've kind of been up into bliss and then kind of getting pulled down. It's really been this thing this week. But I understand it now because I can feel it. I feel how the part of me that wants to believe I'm separate and unique and deserve my limitations is what pulls me out of bliss.
Yeah, yeah.
Does that make sense?
Well, sure, and that's just understanding the process. Thank you, because we need to understand. This happens all the time, and so we need to constantly be aware of it, and that's why we have these webinars, and we constantly go over these things, and they start to chunk in for different people at different times, a little bit by little bit, and ahas start to happen, and we start growing in that direction, and that's one of our purposes. So.
Yeah, and I want to say one more thing, and that is, I was remembering you talking about reconditioning.
Yes.
And so now I'm looking at it from that perspective of using the webinars, using exercise, using beautiful music, using those tools that recondition me and bring me up faster, like keep bringing it up to recondition so that becomes a natural place.
Yes, and it takes time and effort and dedication to do that. Maricela.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Hi.
Hi.
So, what's up?
Okay. Listening to Linda and listening to you, if the only problem is our belief of separation, I wonder what would happen if we work with the unseen therapist over the belief separation.
Okay, there's an accent. I understood you, Maricela. There's an accent. Not everybody would pick it up quickly, so let me see. I'm going to restate your question. So if our only problem is the belief in separation, why not use the unseen therapist to resolve the belief in separation?
Exactly.
Okay. That is precisely what we're doing with every single exercise we're doing. We're bringing in the unseen therapist. It always has to deal with our guards at the gate. It always has these limitations involved. It deals within them as well as it can. We could just simply say, okay, unseen therapist, just come in and get rid of the guard at the gate. I've tried that many times. We have to chip away at. That's my experience. Now, you can certainly try that. I mean, just get quiet or get together with a group and everybody just do that and see what happens. If indeed the unseen therapist comes in and just vanishes the guard at the gate, this whole idea of separation will just simply disappear. You will be in a state of bliss and so on. I would love to know that you did that because I'm sure you will let me know. Okay? In the meantime, I mean, if you can do it, great. That means you're doing something that I haven't tried yet. To me, getting down to details, doing this bit by bit with people on the details, of their own issues and getting down to the specifics and so on, is a way to get to do this in a more gradual type way. But if you can do it with one hand, let me know.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Maricela. Let me see. Kathy Lynn Solomon. Where are you, Kathy?
Hey, Kathy.
Right here.
Good. All right. Fire away.
Okay. Well, I with my 5 events, I'm really happy that you're doing this, Gary.
All right. Thanks.
Okay. So with the events, I actually had about 10, and they all went down, but they were like weeds. They didn't all go down to 0.
Uh-huh.
But what happened as we were tapping, or not tapping, but doing the practice about her over empathy, what happened for me is that I went to my own family system, and everything dovetailed right back to very early years in my life with my own family, and the conflicts between my sisters and my siblings and my mother and my father, and it was, and I had some emotion around that as well. Another significant trauma in my life came up. So it wasn't even the traumas that I had written down here, the events that I wanted to address, that it seemed as if I was working with, and they were dovetailing with, I forget her name.
Shelley?
Shelley, which thank you for sharing, Shelley, wherever you are now. And so this is the other piece I wanted to say, is that during the week, because last Saturday was the first Saturday that I actually participated on the call. I was listening in present time. And, you know, it was funny because my mom offered to help me out in a pretty significant way. And my sister, they needed to do this thing together. And what happened for me was an overwhelming feeling of gratitude, but on top of that, during this past week was this like, why have I been denying this love from them? And it was like literally an outpouring of emotion for me. And I called my mom on the phone, and I let her know how much I loved her. I mean, I do let her know anyway, but there's a part of me for many years, for my own personal soft trauma that happened, not to do with my mom at all, that I had denied this one piece, you know, like I have to avoid them because they're going to infect me, they're toxic, they're this, they're that, the next thing. And what happened is that I just called her and I said, I've been denying this love, and I had a huge overwhelming connection with my mom as well as my sister. And I don't know if it's related or not, but some of that came into the experience today as well.
Well, chances are, Kathleen, it is, I don't know for sure, but chances are it is related, because we're purposely getting into the spiritual dimension. We're purposely getting into love. We're purposely getting into oneness and connection and all of that as forms of the ultimate healing. So that wouldn't surprise me in the least. And I've had other people who have talked about, you know, being on these webinars, and other issues showed up that weren't there before. It came up on the table, and that's another value, you know, in all of this.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to need, Kathy, I've got a lot of people here. I'm running out of time. Is it okay with you if we go on? Ruby Rosales.
Yes, hello.
Hi.
Hi, Gary. Thank you so much. I have a problem, you know, like Shelley did with her dog, how she can't forget that. Well, I cannot forget when I hear about animal cruelty, which I did this morning. I've spent half the day crying about it. I cannot bear the fact that there are things going on right this minute that are just horrible. How do I stop concentrating on those things and try to relieve myself of that pain for those animals?
Well, one of the things you can do is something that we did a little bit with Shelley. It's something I did with one of the people I talked to that have all the empathic responses, and that is you bring in unseen therapists regarding that particular issue. Imagine, if you will, a cruelty to animals scenario that, when you think about it, it's best to have it a specific event. But when it comes up, you bring in unseen therapists to resolve it. I've seen that happen many, many times. And the more you do that, you may have to do it 2, 3, 5 times, something like that, or more. I don't know. But as you do that, it doesn't mean that you will be callous about all of this. But it does mean that your response to this cruelty, which does go on not only for pets and animals, but for humans as well,
yes,
your response to it will not be so over the top, will not be excess. It will develop into concern, so you can do something about it without overreacting.
Okay.
How am I doing?
Yes, I would love that very much. And,
okay.
You know, how would I do that? Contact somebody?
Well, we have instructions for. Have you gone through all of our material on our website?
I started the optimal EFT. I haven't completed that
Okay.
one.
I would complete it because therein are all your basic instructions and so on. Then you can come back to the webinars. They're all recorded and things like that. So, I mean, that would be a good avenue for you, I think, Ruby.
All right. Thank you.
All right, thanks.
I'll do that. All right.
All right. Vinod Joshi.
Hi, Gary.
And I'm going to have to remind you because of the accent to speak slowly, please.
Yes, yeah, I'm going to speak very slowly.
Okay, let me restate the question if I can, just so we make sure we're clear on that. The idea here is if there is a relationship problem and someone is abusive, for example, can we send love to the abusive person and therefore change their abusive behavior?
You're right.
The answer is theoretically, yes. But what we don't want to do is get into the idea that we can take this process and manipulate somebody else so that their behavior is more compatible with what we want them to do, okay? So it needs to be done not with the idea that, okay, you know, you're doing bad things here, stop it because it's affecting me. It's more like, you are coming from a place where you need love. God, do you need love because you're behaving in a certain way? And send them love. It's love that you want to give them. And the more you give it to them, and the better you are at giving it to them, the higher you have climbed your own spiritual ladder, the better you'll get beyond the guard at their gate. And the more relaxed about it, that's when you're likely to see the behavior change.
Okay, great. Okay, I'll try that. That's one. The second question I have is, again, you know, related to whatever you did today.
Okay, so what you asked about, and I'm summarizing this, is that there are beliefs behind many of our behaviors.
Yes.
And they come from childhood typically, and they can be built up and get very strong and so on. Can we simply send unseen therapists, optimal EFT, send love to the belief? Okay.
Yeah. So sorry to interrupt.
Okay. So the question is, if a belief is just simply a perception, something we saw on television maybe, or something that somehow embeds, and therefore we have this perception, can we send love to that and dissolve the belief? Well,
yes.
Okay. That gets into sophisticated stuff, but let me try to address it. Okay. Beliefs that we have all come from the ultimate belief in separation. Every belief we have in this separated state is linked somehow to the belief in separation. We believe what we saw on the television set. Okay? We believe what somebody said to us. We believe what our peers said to us and teased us when we were in third grade school or something like that. We believe these things, but they all come from the separated state and the belief in separation. So to me, all of these beliefs, if you will, are forms of tabletops. We want to look at specific events, take them down into their details, and start chipping away at them. And as we gradually do that, we find ourselves getting rid of more and more what I call the blocks to the awareness of love's presence. The more angers and griefs and guilts and traumas that we put behind us that are underneath these beliefs, you know, the higher up we go. And so to me, the beliefs, wherever they come from, are tabletops, and they are there because of the ultimate erroneous belief in separation. And so we are continually trying to chip away at those, climb the staircase of spiritual understanding, get more and more, chip away at this reconditioning, if you will, get more and more involved in that, so that we can elevate ourselves and eventually start seeing more and more and more of what's out there, and owning more and more and more of what's out there in the spiritual dimension. Christine Blanchette.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi, Gary. How are you?
Hi, good.
I wanted to, first I want to say that I was just at a, like a yard sale. It wasn't a church. And just by chance, I bought a beautiful green bowl for Shelley.
All right.
Yeah, I have got a few issues about the guard and the gate. We're sort of considering it as a troublemaker, something that's bad or nasty guy, etc. And Linda said just before, she said, well, the guard at the gate is me. So if we're considering a part of ourselves as bad and nasty, I don't really agree with that. And funnily enough, up till now, I've always taught my use this metaphor with my clients. And I said to imagine your subconscious or the inner saboteur like a guard trying to guard your palace, but it's just getting the wrong information. But its real goal is to protect you.
Well, okay, yeah, thank you. If you, I can see where you would get the idea from what I've said and everything else, that the guard at the gate is some nasty type thing. But yes, and on the other hand, yes, the guard at the gate is us. It is our resistance, you know, to getting into the spiritual dimension. It is our need to be separate, if you will. So the ego, the guard at the gate, is all words for the same thing, is there. And in its own view, yes, it is there to protect us in one sense. It's also there, I think in a larger sense, to protect itself. Because if we went all the way up that spiritual ladder, the guard at the gate doesn't need to be. The guard at the gate is a belief, like the belief in separation is a belief. And we are trying to undo the belief. And the guard at the gate wants to keep us in this separated state. It is our uniqueness. It is the look at me type thing that I talked about earlier. And so it becomes very important to us. Now, the way I meant to describe the guard at the gate is the way I put on the foundational material that is on our website, and that is, it's not some nasty, muscular male with a suit of armor and weapons, okay? Rather, it's an 8-year-old boy who's insecure about his own existence, very stubborn about it, and is immature, but nonetheless has got its feet dug in big time. And that's more of the metaphor that I want to see, because we need to give the guard at the gate comfort, if you will, something like you would do with an 8-year-old boy who is confused about his own existence, okay? On the other hand, if we really get up that spiritual ladder, the guard at the gate doesn't need to be cajoled. It doesn't need to be pandered to. It just goes poof, because it's nothing more than a belief.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, which reminds me of something. I remember years ago hearing this little riddle. And the riddle goes like this. What weighs nothing but is powerful enough to start a war? And the answer to that is a belief. And it's a similar thing here. So it's a belief. The nasty part of it, yeah, I see where that comes from, because it is stubborn. And yes, it is in our way. Nasty, well, if it helps, maybe so, but that's not really how I'm trying to portray it.
Yeah. I've had really, really good results with my clients when we take this guard at the gate and we just consider it like, I say, just imagine like a Walt Disney guard, and he's a bit dumb. He's really dumb. He just wants one thing, just wants to do his job. And we just go back and give it more other instructions and even do Ho'oponopono on it, you know. And
yeah, whatever works, whatever works. I'm trying to create a sort of a structure, a metaphorical thing we can talk about, okay?
Yeah.
And so if that works for you and the clients work and you get results, yay, I'll help you beat the drum. Okay. All right. Thanks, Christine.
As you were saying, the guard at the gate is just a belief. I call it a gag, G-A-G.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, actually, that's my abbreviation too. GAG for guard at the gate. Okay.
Well, thank you.
All right. All right. Great. Thanks, Christine. I've got two more here. Hold on one second. Okay, Susan S. Susan's.
Hi, Gary.
Hi.
Hi, Susan Kennard again.
Yeah.
Hi, Gary. Yeah, I just wanted to say a couple of things. One was about the earliest perceptions of belief. So when we have those early traumas, which are obviously our earliest perceptions of belief, you were talking about separation and connectedness. And it's my belief that what happens then is if we have this trauma in early experiences, we then decide that it's not safe to be connected. So what we do then, and this is just my opinion and through my work of many, many years of working as a practitioner, and what I found is that when we can really go back to that first experience, that first moment when we felt disconnected from who we truly were because it wasn't safe, when we can actually go back to that first experience, all the other experiences that have been created perhaps from that first early experience of not feeling safe, so therefore disconnecting, actually get dissolved anyway.
Well, that first experience of not feeling safe, unless I misunderstand what you're talking about, could have occurred in the womb.
Absolutely.
Or at birth or something.
Yeah.
I mean, coming out of
I was going to say that. And I mean, you know, I've spoken to you a little bit about my work with epigenetics and that early 14 to 21 days of the brain developing.
Yeah.
So anything could happen at any point. We could have also brought it in ancestrally, but for the point of this call, from the perspective of perceptions of belief, if we can go back as far as possible and actually really connect with that on a deep level, then we are really connecting with our true intuition, our true soul, and we can never feel separate.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, and one thing people might want to experiment with is to go back to the birth trauma, for example, or things that may have happened within the womb, or for that matter, depending on one's beliefs, past lifetimes and this kind of thing, to get down to these experiences. That's why I keep emphasizing the idea of specific events, and the farther back we can go, the better, generally, because they're more foundational, and so on. So, yeah, to the extent we can do that, great.
We could send unconditional love to the baby in the womb. So we could actually ask the unseen therapist, perhaps one Saturday when we're doing this, we could ask the unseen therapist to actually give that unconditional love to the baby in the womb, to everyone on the call, because actually then perhaps it'd be an experiment, but we're actually diffusing anything where we may have felt it wasn't safe to be connected at that point. That spark of creation, you know, my favorite thing. And at that moment of creation, this time, perhaps we can diffuse that. Be fun.
Here's what I'm going to do. I have one more call, and it's from Shelley, actually. And then we're going to close. But
Brilliant.
As we close, I'm going to do a closing optimal EFT moment.
Beautiful.
And we will do exactly that.
Hey!
We will imagine
Great fun.
sending love to the fetus in the womb, if you will.
Brilliant.
For everybody. And whatever happens, happens. Okay?
And it'd be lovely to have some feedback as well. It'd be brilliant.
Yeah. Well, Again, I'm asking for feedback from everybody. Take a note. Feedback. Send me emails and everything else. I need to know all of this. So, okay, let me mute you, Susan, and
thanks, Gary.
We'll get back to Shelley. All right, Shelley, you're on.
Hi. I never realized as well since listening to Ruby that I am terribly empathetic towards animals. My sister tried to get me to become an activist with her, signing petitions. She would send me videos, and all I could do was cry, and I couldn't sleep, and it really, really drained me, and I couldn't help her anymore. And the recent stories in the news about Caitlin and Cecile, Caitlin the dog and Cecile the lion, I shed many tears over them. it just drains me to see this.
Okay, and again, I mean, this would be work for another time, or work you can do on your own. But it's one thing to have concern about it. Yes, 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 that's normal. It's another thing to have excess. I'm repeating myself.
It's excess.
And to bring an unseen therapist to take care of the excess may be very useful for you, so you don't have to, spiral into all of this every time a cruelty to animals or cruelty to people or anything else like that happens. I mean, that's the thought of it anyway. Shelley, again, big kiss for you. Thank you. Thank you. You've just been a delight. And I'm now going to mute you, okay?
Thank you.
All right. We're going to end now with this one experience that was suggested by Susan. So if everybody would please close your eyes. And the idea now is to imagine this large ball that contains everybody on the call. And we're going to bring in unseen therapists. And we're going to address the fetus of everybody. Everybody goes back to the womb, or some other time where there may have been an initial experience where this world is not safe. Or maybe even better stated, this really is a separated world, not oneness. Okay? And imagine that, and then fill this ball with love, understanding that you are part of this ball, and everybody is filling this ball for you as well as you for them. Remember, we're all one. And as I like to say all the time, we go together, you and I. 2 minutes, guys. See you in a bit. Okay, guys. All right. My gratitude to all of you. My kisses and hugs for everybody. I'll see you next Saturday at this time. I will announce sometime between now and then on our webinar or on our website and or newsletter list what our topic may be next time. So anyway, thank you. See you then.